Hey. Tamika Hall here. And, I wanted to just kind of come candid and talk about some things that I started to do to heal from divorce. Um, this is definitely most likely going to be a series because I will tell you right now, I put in a lot of work on me over the last 2 years. I have put in a lot of work on me. And, a lot of the healing can't really be summed up in just one video. Just like the process of healing, it's a process. So it doesn't just happen overnight. Why can't it just happen overnight? Right? Like, why can't it just be like, snap, we're just done? And, why does it hurt? Why does that stuff have to happen? But, I wasn't sure that I would ever do a video like this. And I actually took a nap and woke up, and my mind, I just started being flooded with the things that I've done over the years to fight for my healing. I've been fighting for my healing. I fought for it. I clawed my way through mess, feelings of shame and guilt, and I have been fighting for my healing. I was intentional about wanting to heal. It was intentional. I sought after my healing. I did. So, divorce is hard. It's the ending of a relationship. It's like you literally lose half of who you were. I've always been a very good actress. Always. And so I fooled myself for a very long time in thinking that, I was okay. And at the end of the day, I just, I wasn't. And so when the divorce happened, I remember it hit me like a ton of bricks. I remember standing in the courtroom and literally weeping, sobbing. So these are some of the things that I did to really begin the road to recovery. I mean, I'm laughing, and it's not because I'm making light of it, but I literally have treated myself as if I've been in recovery. I've literally done that. So the first thing that I did was I respected my own privacy. That may sound crazy, but I respected my own privacy. I did not blast it all over Facebook. We did not do that. We were very respectful of each other. And I know that's not always everybody's story, but sometimes it doesn't matter what the other person does. You've got to do what you need to do for you. And for me, I respected my own privacy. I did not go around telling everybody about it. My family knew. It was nobody's business. I personally don't understand people who do that, who go around and they decide to post it on Facebook or on their Instagram. I mean, do you? But it's really nobody's business. People are not there with you in the middle of the situation. People aren't there at the demise of things. They're not there really for the highs and the lows. Like, I don't even care if you've involved certain folks, where maybe you've talked to them. It's not the same when you are the person that is in it and you're living there. Or not living there, but living in a relationship. So it wasn't anybody's business. So I respected my own privacy. And it was a great thing because people didn't know. People probably still don't know. They probably will now, but they probably still don't know. But it just wasn't their business. It was mine. And what that did is it gave me the ability to heal in peace. I didn't want people walking up to me and being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like, I don't need you to do that, right? Because for one thing, what I understood is that my sanity felt very fragile, okay? And I understood that if somebody walked up to me and said the wrong thing, I was going to snap. I was going to snap. So I understood that. So I had to respect my own privacy. So even when people did try to talk to me about it, baby, I shut it down. I don't want to talk about that. Oh, yeah, well, we're not going to talk about that. People are like, oh, I'm sorry. I choose not to talk about it. And I respected my own privacy without feeling bad about it. That's number one. I don't care if you started off in the process where you were running and, you decided you wanted to run and tell that. Like, at some point, respect your own privacy and require other people to do the same. You don't owe people anything. You don't owe them an explanation. It doesn't matter who was wrong. It doesn't matter why it happened. It happened. Mind your business. That's really what it was. The other thing that I did was I got therapy. It's amazing how sometimes you will find friends when you least expect it. And one of my good friends, she actually said to me, you need to go to therapy. And that's what I did. I got a therapist, and I know that I already know some folks are going to be upset about it, but I chose not to do Christian counseling. I chose not to go to a pastor. I just went to a therapist. I wanted somebody that I could just talk to, and there really would be no judgment. I didn't want somebody to preach at me at this moment. I needed somebody to hear my heart and be able to really give me an unbiased, objective opinion and help. That is what I needed. It doesn't mean that folks that do Christian counseling can't do that. That's not what I'm saying. It was in my experience, it just wasn't what I wanted to do. And it wasn't even that I had not received good counseling in the past, but I just chose not to do it. I was in a headspace where I didn't want to hear it. Because here's the thing, I was already leaning on God. Like I'm grateful that in this particular situation, at this time, I wasn't angry with God. I know what that feels like, to be angry and to not understand why you're in a certain situation. I had been there before and I wasn't there. So I already kind of knew that God, I knew that God was my strength, and I knew I needed him to be my strength. So it wasn't like I was denouncing the church or God or anything like that. I just wanted to step away I just needed to step away. And so what I did every time I went to my therapist, I actually would write. So sometimes it'd be 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would get up and I would just write what I was thinking. I would write, I would just pour out. I began to really look at myself. Like I remember the very first session, I looked in the mirror and tears streaming down my face, and I kind of diagnosed myself. And I started talking to myself in the mirror, and I said, hi, I'm Tamika, and I am addicted to the high that I feel when I am pleasing other people. And that was the first time that I'd ever really accepted that I was a people pleaser. It's the first time I'd ever said it out loud. It was the first time that I ever actually acknowledged that it was problematic. I had been friendships, business partnerships. So many things had gone crazy in my life because of me being a people pleaser. And so I remember I wrote that down, and I went all the way back. Like I went all the way back as far as I could go. And I remember I just wrote and wrote and wrote for probably 2 hours. And I talked about where I thought it came from. I'd been molested at 5, and you don't realize how much that will impact you, right? And I remember looking in the mirror and facing it, and facing the path that had really put me on in my life. And, people pleasing is really where that started. So, I went to the therapist, and every session I would go. And I just did it, I had a notebook, and then sometimes I would put it on my phone. I would type in the notes on my phone. And I said to my therapist, hey, I want to read something to you. Like, this is what came to mind. And that was very helpful because, number one, it helped her to really see inside of me. And I think it really helped her to help me. It helped her to help me because I was very open. Like, I just wanted something different. I knew I'd been hurting. For years, and I just needed something different. I said, God, I want to be healed and I want to be whole. And I knew part of me becoming healed and whole was that I had to totally surrender to the process, and I had to be open, and I had to be 100% honest with myself, with her. And so I did. I sought a therapist. And so if you're going to do it, be open. They're not there to give you the answers. They help you find the answers within. And the great thing is, like, they really help you to kind of connect the dots. I learned that a lot of my path in my life started. I had already written it down that, me being molested is kind of where people pleasing started. But then going to therapy helped me to understand that I wasn't alone, that oftentimes children who do suffer from molestation will be, they oftentimes will seek for, affirmation from other people. So, growing up in the church, my parents are preachers. And so growing up in the church, I used to feel like there was just something wrong with me. I didn't understand, why I made certain decisions that I made, like why I felt like I always needed to be in a relationship and different things like that. And so being in therapy really helped me to kind of connect the dots on that. And it really helped me to begin to sever what, to me, I feel like, was like my drug of choice. My drug of choice was pleasing people, like at all costs, to my detriment. That is what my drug of choice was. Like, I would literally get a euphoria from just pleasing people. It didn't mean it could be anything for me, emptying out my bank account, to give an offering at church. Like, it would be anything, to yielding my body, to someone. And, but like I said, therapy was good for me because it helped me to begin to heal, and it helped me to really connect those parts of myself. The other thing that I did was, I allowed myself to grieve. I did. I allowed myself to grieve. I literally fooled myself so long over the course of my life that I learned how to lie to myself really, really good. I learned how to lie to myself really, really good. And I wouldn't grieve. I would never grieve a situation. I would immediately jump into another relationship. That's what I would do. And so I allowed myself to grieve. I made myself grieve. I made myself do it. When relationships would kind of present themselves, I chose not to. Some that I wanted to happen, I understood when God didn't allow the relationship to happen at that time, because I told God I wanted to be healed and I wanted to be whole, and that any relationship that any new relationship that I ever entered into, I told him I wanted whoever I connect with, I want them to get the very best version of me ever. I wanted to know the very best version of me. So I allowed myself to grieve. Like, it's a loss. You grieve. Think about it. Like, you grieve being somebody's wife. You grieve belonging to somebody. It doesn't matter how good or how bad you think something was. Like, you belonged to somebody. And all of a sudden you find yourself that you belong to yourself. And when you've never allowed yourself to be by yourself, that's hard. So I grieved that. I grieved the sense of perfection that I felt like I was supposed to be perfect, you know? And I allowed myself to grieve the fact that that lady was not perfect. I allowed myself to grieve the fact that my life didn't turn out perfectly. I let myself grieve. And in doing that, the other thing I allowed myself to feel. Oh my God. I think that's probably one of the hardest things that I did is I let myself feel. And it sucks sometimes. Like, it really does. And so what I would do was, and it's kind of like a new process that I even do right now with anything. I try to figure out what the emotion was that I was feeling. Like, were my feelings hurt? Was I angry? Like, was I just upset? Those are all different emotions. Like, they're different degrees of emotion. Like, did I feel disrespected? Because oftentimes, like, when you're hurt, it's so easy to fly off the handle and but sit in the seat of being angry, because that's an easy emotion, right? That's an easy emotion to connect to. So for me, I refused to just be angry all the time. Like, I refused to give myself the space to just be angry all the time, because I knew that there was more there. And I'm like, if I'm going to ever heal, I need to learn how to put words to what is happening to me. Like, so, if something's making me cry, why am I crying? Am I really sad or am I mad? Am I really sad or am I disappointed, right? So I really began to allow myself to feel, and it sucks. It does. Like I said, my drug of choice has always been relationships. So, rather than let myself feel something, I would always jump into another relationship because I enjoy being happy, right? And I enjoy catering to somebody. I enjoy having somebody connected to me. And so I let myself feel what it was like to be alone, and I allowed myself to feel, honestly, I allow myself to feel happy. I know that sounds crazy, but when you go through something like that, like a divorce, even if you're listening and what you're going through is a breakup, sometimes you don't feel like you're allowed to be happy by yourself, but you can be, and it's okay. And you're allowed to be happy by yourself, and you're allowed to feel okay by yourself. And so you got to let yourself feel. And so what I would do, I'm just one of those people, I can be really withdrawn, especially if something kind of hurts me or what have you. I will pull back, and I have to kind of figure out, what am I feeling right now? So I'm not necessarily one of those people who will automatically like call people and I need to get them in my corner, or I need to talk it out. I don't always do that. I'm one of those people, I used to be that way. I'm just not anymore. And I've learned to woosah and breathe and take some time to try to discover why I feel the way that I do. Sometimes I will call on a trusted circle of people. I wouldn't even call it a whole circle. It's like 3 people that I'm willing to call in the moment of me being upset or hurt about any situation, not just, the separation of a relationship, but like sometimes I do need help navigating it. So when I do, I have a trusted 2 or 3 people that I know I can call on who will not judge me, right? Because when you're a strong person, when you're the strong one, you're used to being the strong one, and everybody can't handle when you're weak. They can't. So you got to find those people that can handle even when you're weak and won't criticize you when you're weak. And I think the final thing for this video, because these are some heavy things to do. It may seem easy, but they're not. And it's something that I've constantly had to remind myself over, 2 years. I allowed myself to be my own best friend. And so to explain that to you, it's like this. We're harder on ourselves than we are on our friends, right? And so anytime I would be unkind to myself or would feel like I wasn't worth it, because during this process, I really saw where my self-esteem was lacking. And, I thought that I'd conquered those things. And during this process of really trying to find myself again and me really healing, it ripped band-aids off of wounds from when I was like 14. And so we oftentimes can be so unkind to ourselves. And so what I've learned to do is kind of be my own best friend. If there's a situation where I know I'm beating myself up, I literally will kind of step back in my mind. I don't just walk around talking to myself. But, I will mentally envision, what would I say if this was my best friend sitting in front of me? What would I say to her? And at one point, I actually would write down those things that I would say to her. If she was feeling bad because, she was sad about if I was feeling bad about, the fact that I was divorced, I would sit down and I would write out, what would I say to my friend if she was sitting in front of me, right? There would be times, when I felt like nobody's going to want to be with you. This is the second time you're divorced. No man of substance is going to want to be with you. I was saying all of these crazy things to myself, and I sat down and I wrote out a list. I wrote out what I would say to my friend. Like, I was like, you are a boss babe. You are this, you are that. So I literally was writing to my best friend, but that ended up being me. And I started using those as affirmations. And so anytime I would get down on myself about that, I would pull that out. And it got to a place where I could recite it for myself. Like, girl, you're a boss babe. You're a dime piece, right? Like, girl, you make your own money. You take care of your kids. You take care of yourself. You don't rely on somebody else to take care of you. Like, I had to affirm myself. And I did it until I believed it. Like, it is amazing what can happen when you begin to change the narrative in your mind. Like, you start to believe yourself. Like, you really start to look at yourself as a dime piece. What? All of a sudden you start working out and stuff for yourself, right? Like, it was an awakening for me. It was. So I allowed myself to be my own best friend. And, of course, God was there the whole step of the way. One of my favorite verses during that time, and even to this day, Amos 9. In Amos 9, it talks about God placing us in a sieve or a strainer and shaking the sin out of our life. And to me, when I looked at that, it wasn't just about sin, but sometimes things have to be shaken out of your life so you can really become the very best person that you were ever supposed to be. And I remember I said to a pastor at a women's event, I said to her, I'm excited to discover who I was always supposed to be. And I knew I was healing for me. It wasn't for me wanting to be in another relationship. Like, I wanted to heal for me because I knew that underneath all of my pain, underneath all of my insecurities, that like there was a dope chick and I couldn't wait to meet her. And so in Amos 9, when it talks about shaking those things out of our life, it also talks about where God says he is going to outdo himself in making you successful. And I held on to that. And I still hold on to that. So there's some work there. There's some work for you right there. Okay? As a quick recap, respect your own privacy, boo. Like, please stop running around telling everybody your business. Respect your own privacy. Do not fall into the stigma that therapy is wrong or that it's for crazy people. It is not. It's the best thing ever. You get to dump all your feelings on somebody who doesn't know you, and then you get to walk Tusi away. What? Like, you get to walk away. You get to just go and make a deposit, and then you don't ever have to pick it up again if you don't want to. You make a deposit, they don't judge you. You make a deposit, they help you to kind of connect the dots of why you feel the way you feel. They let you know that it's okay for you to feel like that. They will help you if it's a good one. They will help you to kind of discover what's going to kind of happen in the future. So they kind of prepare you for those things. Like, what? It was great. And this is the other thing I want to tell you. A lot of times jobs now come equipped with, they have that part of a care package. So look and see if your job actually offers some free sessions with the therapist. That's how I got it. I was teaching at the time, and our job gave us access to 6 free sessions with our therapist, right? So you got that. Insurance oftentimes will cover it as well. Like, this is not, you don't have to look at it and be like, oh, I can't afford it. No, you most likely can. Okay. So like, don't shy away from that. Look into it. And of course, I mean, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to go seek counseling from your pastor. There's nothing wrong with that. I just chose not to do that. I chose not to at that moment. Allow yourself to grieve the loss of whatever it is, the loss of the relationship, the loss of what you thought was the picture perfect thing. Allow yourself to grieve that. Allow yourself to feel. Force yourself to feel, because the moment that you feel, you can kind of say, okay, I feel this. And like, legitimately, I was able to function. For me, I can't speak for anybody else, but when I would sit around and fake like I wasn't upset, I felt it a lot longer. So allow yourself to feel, force yourself to feel, like force yourself to identify how you feel, because when you are grieving the loss of a marriage, let's be honest, like at some point you're probably going to be a loose cannon, right? And it's like, you can't lose your job. You can't hurt your kids' feelings just because your feelings are hurt at the moment. You know what I mean? So even though, life hurts, life doesn't stop. So allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to identify what your feeling is so that you can begin to process and you can walk through that process. And then be your own best friend. Like, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Baby, you a dime piece, right? You're a dime piece. You're a boss babe. Right? Whatever it is that you got to say to yourself, that's what I said to myself. It's not being conceited. You got to tell yourself. That way you won't fall prey to somebody, especially during this time. You won't fall prey to someone who makes you feel great, and then you decide to jump into something just because you feel vulnerable. So this is the first part of this. When I woke up from my nap today, I think I made a list of about 20 things that I've done over the last 2 years to really begin to heal. And I hope this was helpful for you. Leave me a comment, subscribe, and we'll chit chat later.